Ladies and gentlemen, I am SidAlpha. One of the more dirty and underhanded things a person can do within an online video game, such as an MMO or a survival game or anything of the like, includes deliberately making use of exploits within the game to destroy or take other players' equipment and materials without any possibility of repercussion. However, it's even worse when people do their best to call attention to exploits and the like, only to then instead find themselves banned by the developers of the game. Such is the case here with one YouTuber in particular and Studio Wildcard, the developers of Ark Survival Evolved. As always, I'll do my best to lay out the particulars of the matter, and then I'll give my thoughts on all of this. Links to any sources used are in the description down below. Yesterday, I had the YouTuber HOD Gaming ping me on Twitter due to an issue he was experiencing with Studio Wildcard banning him from their global servers in Ark Survival Evolved. Now, the reason for this seemed to be due to a video he'd posted titled 2019 Guide to Mesh Monkeys, the video footage of which is on your screen now. The video itself was performed in a faux documentary tone for the majority of it, making use of video clips from a variety of other channels showcasing some of the numerous methods of meshing within the game and phrasing them in a humorous tone. Meshing, as it's termed, is a method by which a player will deliberately exploit collision or lack thereof within the game to get through the mesh of the physical boundaries of the game, such as cliff faces, rock walls, and the like, which would allow people to build bases in areas that are completely inaccessible to people without making use of the exploit, and would also allow players to bypass base defenses and destroy a PvP base from below the map, or to be able to steal a person's goods from PvE servers. Now, HOD Gaming states within the video that this was an attempt to raise awareness to help goad Studio Wildcard into beginning to resolve the issues of, quote, mesh monkeys and the problems they pose within the game. However, regardless of intent, the end result was that Studio Wildcard banned HOD Gaming from the global servers, which also could cause significant harm to his YouTube channel of over 189,000 subscribers that focuses almost exclusively on Ark Survival Evolved content. Also, I did some digging to see when meshing first became a significant issue within the game, and I ended up finding one Steam post from July 2015, 1 month after the game was released into early access, meaning meshing has been a known issue for the entire 4-year lifespan of the game and has been a significant issue for both PvP and PvE environments. As some people had mentioned that what HOD Gaming was doing was potentially a violation of the code of conduct, I took the time to read through the document and I found nothing in relation to showcasing known bugs and exploits in a public manner. I'd also DM'd HOD Gaming directly and verified with him that he claims to have never engaged in meshing in a global server and had only done so to test in private servers only. So that is, at its absolutely most basic, the general idea of what has been going on here, and my thoughts on all of this? Well, I'm not enraged, as I know a great many people are. I'm sure if I were HOD Gaming, I would be, but to be honest, I already have such a low opinion of Studio Wildcard that I would have to go buy a shovel in order for it to be able to go any lower. The fact of the matter is, these developers have already earned a spot on the Dirty Devs list multiple times over. There's just been no official video on it to induct them into the Hall of Shame. The first instance I can think of is when they released a DLC package for Ark Survival Evolved while the game was still in early access. But what they had done there was they had sold the game to a great many people through the early access system, with the at least implicit intent due to the core nature of early access to take the funds raised from the sales and put it towards the completion of the game. But that's not what they did, at least not entirely. They then instead used that money to fund the development of the DLC package that they then sold to the same people that had bought the game under early access. And sell it they did. That DLC was topping the Steam charts for a while, and those few of us that rightfully called out Studio Wildcard on their deplorable actions received a very unrepentant response from the developers. Now, everything I've seen from Studio Wildcard very much paints a picture of a developer that cares for profit at the expense of their own product, with the fervor and completely wanton disregard that we see in the likes of Activision, Blizzard, and Electronic Arts. And I know that there are still some people that will defend Studio Wildcard with the same tired argument of them needing the additional funds for the DLC to pay for legal fees and the like, except those people continue, at least in many cases, to remain deliberately ignorant of the fact that Studio Wildcard themselves had explicitly stated that that was not the case at all. But we're not here to talk about my personal beef with Studio Wildcard that goes back several years. We're here to talk about HOD Gaming. Now, some people have been saying on Reddit and Twitter that HOD Gaming deserved what he got. He created and posted what was tantamount to a how-to guide on becoming a mesh monkey, as it were, and I don't think that's entirely correct. You see, this issue has been prevalent since the very beginning, and it carries with it very dire consequences for those that fall prey to such exploits. It's especially prevalent in a game like Ark, where you spend hundreds or even thousands of hours developing the resources that are put into your base. Now, from what I gather, your base is persistent, meaning it can be attacked while you're offline. That was supposedly a novel concept at the time, as most younger gamers hadn't experienced such things. Of course, those of us that played Star Wars Galaxies knew this phenomenon all too well, but the sheer amount of resources that can be invested in a base in Ark can be staggering, which is why base defenses are so important. But for these mesh monkeys to be able to circumvent those defenses at will, it being a well-known issue, and the developers of the game blithely ignoring it for over 4 years, is to my mind completely reprehensible. And make no mistake, frustrations over these exploits can and will continue to mount, especially considering Studio Wildcard seems to not only be turning a blind eye, but are actively working counter to those that wish to see these issues resolved. So what is someone like HOD Gaming to do? He's built his channel and entire community based solely upon this game. Or if not solely, then the vast majority of it. It would stand to reason that he would become fed up with this sort of nonsense just like any rational human being would. And when you have a YouTube channel and you see day in and day out the developers actively ignoring the issue, what do? Do you pack it in, abandon the majority of your channel's content, not to mention the game that you obviously love and invested countless hours into? Or do you try and fight for a better game that you can continue to enjoy and that your viewers, your community can continue to enjoy right along with you? HOD Gaming's video very much is an instructional video, but the intent behind it very much wasn't. The intent behind it was to make the voices crying out in the dark that they want change even louder, in the vain hope that they would finally reach the developers' ears. And what did he get for investing so much time into the game, for creating so much content and generating so much continued interest in Ark Survival Evolved? He got banned. He got banned for doing nothing more than trying to improve the game. And what about the developers, Studio Wildcard? What they have shown here is that they care nothing about the content creators that heavily promote their game, that generate interest and help drive continued engagement and even sales. I personally know a ton of game developers that would figuratively kill for a HOD Gaming to support their game. 190,000 subscribers is nothing to turn your nose up at, and from the views that I see on his videos, it is by no means a dead or dying channel. Quite the opposite, it appears to be thriving. Much more than my own channel right now, and I'll admit to a minor amount of jealousy, but that's neither here nor there. The fact of the matter is, he has a large channel that is, or I should say potentially was, doing very well for itself, and the vast majority of his content was based upon Studio Wildcard's game. Their banning him for this could be seen as borderline censorship of a form. If anything, it could be seen as they're making an example of him for daring to speak out. To my mind, this is not too dissimilar from when I had asset flippers like Dentola Studios or scum developers like Doki and Dallas or Andrew Watt do everything they could to silence me. Some with spurious use of the DMCA, others with frivolous and false defamation complaints. The only difference here is that there's no legality issue, but the ultimate effect is much the same. If HOD Gaming is forced to move on, his channel will still be damaged as a result of this, and so will Studio Wildcard. Frankly, their reputation is bad enough as it is. How many people will abandon the game as a result of their actions? How much loss of visibility will they suffer as a result of banning HOD Gaming? How many people will slowly grow fed up and disenfranchised with the game and the developers' wanton apathy when it comes to fixing the exploits within their own game that have been there since day one and continue to become more and more of a problem by the day? Ark Survival Evolved is a game that was popular enough and successful enough ultimately to be able to survive such a hit as this without it probably making too much of a dent, which to my mind is a bit of a shame, because they certainly haven't earned it. They most definitely don't deserve continued support. Their anti-consumer actions and behavior over the course of the past 4 years is extremely self-evident, and I can't for the life of me fathom why anyone would want to continue to support a developer such as them. But HOD Gaming did. He managed to build a channel out of it, greatly benefiting both him, the game, and its developers. And this is the thanks he's gotten from the developers for his support these past years. To be cast aside like a used washcloth at the drop of a hat with no warning and no recourse to be had. It's a deplorable situation, and I do wish HOD Gaming all the best, and I hope that somehow Studio Wildcard pulls their heads out of their collective asses and addresses this. Once again, ladies and gentlemen, I am SidAlpha, free HOD, and I'll see you next time.